Thanks, Asking Again, I want to thank the deputies for raising this issue here tonight. It's a very, very important topic that certainly featured heavily in the last elections, without a doubt. But even before that, because it was something that was debated quite a lot in the Houses, probably since about 2007, 2008, when this was being discussed. But I think at that stage we certainly needed a national conversation about it, which probably didn't happen, and it wasn't led by anybody, to be honest with you, at that stage. But I think it's important that that's what we're having now. We're having this debate here tonight, and also the Commission is doing its work, which is kind of leading this national conversation and what we're going to do in this area as well. So, as Minister of State in the Department of Social Protection, I welcome the opportunity to discuss the state pension this evening on behalf of our Minister Humphreys and the Department. I want to be very clear. The Government recognises that the state pension age was one of the most important issues that arose during the last election, and the public were very clear on this. They wanted a new approach, and they wanted a new conversation, as it is referenced, in this space to see where we would go, bearing in mind most people are responsible in relation to the public finances and how we have to pay for all this as well. That is why, when we formed this government, we gave it very specific attention in our programme for government and set out a range of commitments which we've been following through on. As committed in the programme for government, a commission on pensions was established last November by Minister Heather Humphreys. The public policy and social issues in relation to funding a sustainable and adequate state pension system are complex, as we all know. The government therefore wanted to get an impartial examination of the situation and an independent assessment of what will be required to sustain the state pension system and what may be possible for the future. And again, even all those who raised concerns in this around the time of the election and before that, they want to make sure that we have a sustainable system in place that guarantees the funding will be there to pay out these pensions well into the future, not just for them, but for their own children and for their grandchildren as well, looking well ahead into the future. That is why we established a Commission on Pensions with care, ensuring that it had a gender-balanced membership with extensive experience of social and public policy and the necessary expertise to grasp the potential impacts of any pensions reform options brought forward. The Commission is examining both sustainability and eligibility issues in respect of the state pension and the social insurance fund. In that respect, it has been asked to develop options for government on issues such as qualifying age, contribution rates, total contributions and eligibility requirements. It is also considering the issue of retirement ages in employment contracts that differ from the state pension age, which I know was one of the points raised in the Sinn Féin motion this evening. In addition, the Commission is looking at the issue of pension provision for long-term carers, and I think all the deputies would agree that it's important that we would do that. To date, the Commission has met on 15 occasions with further meetings planned. As part of its work, it has held an extensive consultation with a wide range of stakeholders, including the general public, representative groups and associations, and national and international public and advisory bodies. As part of its consultation, the Commission has received over 220 detailed submissions. It has also conducted an online stakeholder forum, which included detailed presentations from a range of representative groups, and it has engaged with a range of national and international experts to inform the decisions in this space. So lest anybody be in any doubt, the Commission on Pensions is very much getting on with its work, and rightly so. That's the challenge it was given to advise government in this space. As a government, we want the Commission to be able to carry out their work independently and unfettered. That's why, as committed in the programme for government, last December, we passed legislation to defer the planned increases in the state pension age, pending the report of the Commission and its consideration by the government. That decision wasn't taken lightly, but we understood that it was important to let the Commission do its work and bring forward their advice. That measure will cost £221 million alone in 2021 and approximately £453 million in a full year. As also committed in the programme for government, earlier this year, we introduced a new benefit payment for 65-year-olds. People who retire at age 65 and avail of this payment do not need to attend an intro centre to sign on, and they do not need to be available or to be genuinely seeking work, as they are not required to participate in any activation measures. And that was a sore point for many, many people, that they felt, having worked all their lives, that they were then had to join those queues or go to the intro services or to actively seek work. And that was a big issue that people didn't like, even though it was probably debated for years, but it certainly wasn't communicated, and people didn't have the chance to contribute to that debate in those years as well. So it was important that we paused this and took a relook while bringing in that benefit for the moment. Unlike job seekers' benefit, which lasts for 9 months, a person who retires at 65 can avail of the payment for the full year until they reach the pension age at 66. Again, dealing with another issue, which meant that the previous scheme, the funding ran out after 9 months, or the payment ran out after 9 months. It's important to say that the social insurance contribution requirements for this payment are not as high as for receipt of the state pension, and people retiring at age 65 should, in most cases, easily meet the required PRSI conditionality. While it was only introduced in February of this year, there are already over 2,600 65-year-olds benefiting from the new payment. Again, people reference the adequacy of our pension, and from an adequacy point of view, the Irish state pension is regarded as successful in protecting pensions from poverty, but also we want to continually improve the pension offering, which we've done for many, many years over the last successive governments, to improve the rate that it is paid, to give people a more comfortable retirement, and to enable them to be able to have that quality of life that they deserve. And again, we will always, when any increases are sanctioned, have a look and have a view on pensioners living alone and single pension incomes in a household, because again we recognise the difficulties there if you are living alone and trying to run a household. Pension rates in Ireland also compare very favourably with other jurisdictions, but again we recognise that Ireland is, that's what it needs to be able to have a quality of life that goes with that. Again, people, the Sinn Féin guys don't like compared to the North, where they are in decision-making role and where they have a decision-making role. And when you compare in the North, again, you always say it's somebody else's fault, but the reality of it is, when you compare the contributory state pension here in the South, which is over €248, in Northern Ireland it's considerably less at 175 sterling or about €195. And that's the reality of it. And you'll always blame somebody else, and I know that you're not in government on your own there, but you are responsible for decision-making in the North, whether you like it or not. But repeatedly, we are expected in the South to judge Sinn Féin on what they say they would do if they were in government in the South, not what they actually do when they're in government in the North. But just to bear that in mind when we do have these debates. And I'm conscious that you do get an envelope of money from Westminster. I accept that too. But there are decisions to be made as well.
You wouldn't even listen to contributions earlier on.
Sorry, look, I didn't interrupt anybody else. In any discussion on pensions, we do need to look at one single inescapable fact, that people are living longer. And we have to accept that, and we have to plan for that, and we have to budget for that, and make sure the resources are in place, again, for the longevity of this pension. In 1971, the average life expectancy was 71. Thankfully, by 2016, that had risen to 81. A person who reached 65 years of age in 1971 could expect to live to age 77. In 2016, that has increased to about 84, and that's a positive development for our country, and one that we're trying to allow for in all our policies and our plans, not just when it comes to pension age, when it comes to housing for the ageing and every other policy document we bring forward as well. Of course, it is hugely welcome that people are living longer and healthier lives, but it does present its own challenges, and challenges that we have to meet collectively and responsibly. In 1997, spending on pensions was 1.7 billion, as Concurla. By 2010, this had increased to 5.8 billion. And by 2019, the cost had increased to over 8.2 billion. So the numbers are really jumped over the last number of years. This expenditure increase is due in no small part to the ongoing increase in pensioner numbers. There are about 743,000 persons over 66 expected to benefit from state pension payments next year. This is an increase of over 150,000 people in 10 years alone. About 40% of the total social welfare budget is spent on pensions, up from 28% in 2010. Whether we like it or not, this has obvious implications for the ability of the state not only to fund pensions, but also to allocate resources to other priorities. And again, I was involved in the document for housing options for those who are ageing, an important document looking to the future to give people the choice, because it was raised by Deputy Snowdig about in terms of being able to manage and security if you're in rented accommodation as you get older and as you age and as you move on to the pension as well. So it is important across all our departments that we do recognise policy changes and implementation are needed. It also has implications for intergenerational equity and fairness. The sustainability of state pensions is not an issue unique to Ireland. This is a conversation that's happening all over Europe. In Northern Ireland, the pension age was increased from 65 to 66 last year, and I believe it is a plan to increase it again to 67 by 2028. It's easy to be populist, but the bottom line is there are no easy options on this, and that's the case for governments across the world. This is an issue that has to be dealt with, but in the fairest, most possible way, and that's why an independent commission to bring evidence to this and an evidence-based decision-making is appropriate and one that government will respond to. There is a duty on every deputy in this House to ensure that we do not jeopardise the future of the state pension system by taking short-term populist approaches to this matter. The decisions we make today will not only impact those approaching retirement age, but will have long-term and far-reaching implications, particularly for today's younger generations of workers, who through their social insurance contributions and taxes are paying for today's pensioners, but also for our children and their children when they reach retirement age over the coming decades. While the Government will not oppose the motion this evening, I want to be absolutely clear that we will be allowing the Commission on Pensions to continue with its work independently and giving them necessary time to finish its deliberations and to report to Government independently based on evidence and assessment of where we're going with this.
Thank you, Minister.
I expect that will happen in the near future, and it would be inappropriate to preempt its conclusions and recommendations at this time. Just to wrap up, once the report is finalised, the Government will consider the options and recommendations set up by the Commission, and as promised, the programme for Government will take action within the next 6 months. Thank you.